I, I think we might be live. Let me just check whether we're live. In fact, what I will do. What I will do is this. Give myself a starter.
Got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty. I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with. Now they looking nervously, and I don't really care what you think of me respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better. See, I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
Well, that's enough of that then. Okay, well, this is just a chill stream because I'm waiting for BroJo, really. He was supposed to come on nearly 2 hours ago. 2 fucking hours. And he says in his stream, oh, time's tentative and blah, blah, fucking blah. It's like, oh, Christ, what a load of shit. Fucking typical shite. So I'm just going to go through a few videos. Some stuff I might have seen and some other stuff I haven't seen at all. And it's just like a bit of a reaction to anything and everything that's happening. And it's going to jump on a lot of different stuff. So the first one is about whether the police can demand your phone PIN code or that you unlock your mobile phone. And this is a UK version. So this is not going to be anything to do with the United States.
Can you refuse to provide the police with your mobile phone PIN number or access code? There are a lot of videos going around online to say that you can just flat out refuse, and there's no law that requires you to give them your PIN number. But that is not quite correct. So welcome back to the channel, a very brief video. And you might want to check out my new position is that there is no initial law that requires you to provide your PIN number to your mobile phone to the police. But there's many reasons they might want it. Now, I trust that most of you watching won't be in the position where you're being arrested and questioned by the police, but you never know when you might be mistaken for somebody that really did commit a crime and then they are questioning you for it and they want access to your mobile phone. And you might decide that you don't want to give them access to your mobile phone. And you need to know the default position as to whether you're required to give them that PIN number or not. The default and the starting position is that you do not need to give them your PIN number to open your phone. However, and it's a big however, if the police deem it absolutely necessary to gain access to any information on your phone, for example, it might be something to do with national security, even if you're innocently mixed up in all of this, they can apply for a notice so long as a judge will sign off on it under Section 49 of the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act of 2000.
Which sounds like the police cannot, when initially stopping you and initially questioning you, the police cannot ask or demand for your access to your phone. What they can do is apply for a specific judge's order that then allows them to say, okay, you need to give us access to your phone. That's what that sounds like I wish you'd said it a bit clearer, but
Now, there's certain criterion that this must meet, but if they require this notice from authorized by a judge to require you to provide them with the PIN number, and you then fail to comply with that notice, you are then committing a criminal offense.
so if they have essentially, if they have a warrant signed by a judge that says you must supply access to your phone, if they don't provide that, then you don't need to give it. If they do provide you with this equivalent of a warrant, then you must provide them with it. Okay, so that was 1.5 minutes out of 4 minutes, 20 seconds. And I think that's all that we need to look at in relation to that. Okay, I found this rather interesting. There's a load of stuff here from our friend Joker, Bachelor, around OnlyFans and who uses OnlyFans. I've got a few concerns about the numbers that are within this, and I haven't been able to really get to the bottom of the numbers, so I'm going to get myself a pad and a pen, and I'm going to write down the numbers as this information comes through. I'm going to put the speed up to 1.25. I've got a feeling that people have been lying on this in terms of the statistics they give to OnlyFans that have ended up with whoever it is that is doing this analysis.
They say OnlyFools statistics for 2024, exploring the platform's users, creators, and earnings. I said, hey, this is interesting. How many women are blowing their lives away to earn $180 in a ham sandwich for showing their ham sandwich on the internet for a monthly subscription fee? During 2000, how creators on OnlyFools make a living. How does
I'm looking
OnlyFools
for the
work?
numbers.
Who uses it, and what is the examining the demographics? We'll look into the profitability, etc. So they say, what's the primary purpose? Obviously, we know what that is. And they show the rise here, which you can see of Substack, Gumroad, Bandcamp, Cameo, Outschool, Twitch, Patreon, and then Rocket Ship. Many creators are using it to monetize their content. Here are some surprising details. How much does the average person make on OnlyFools?
Not a lot.
$143,000 annually, a year, to 5.4.
See, the thing is, average is mean, whereas median will give you the 50%. And basically what you want to know is, what do the majority get? Because this says there are some. Another survey found the average OnlyFans creator earns around $180 monthly. These stats are based on a sample of creators and may not represent all creators. Only OnlyFans has the full picture, of course. So the top earners make 100 grand or more monthly. Okay. And right. You know, Joker here has said the average, but it's not. Business Insider spoke with eight OnlyFans models. Those 8 models reported annual earnings ranging from 143 grand to 5.4 million in US dollars. So we've also got an average OnlyFans of $180 monthly. And average is always skewed depending on the numbers and whatever, but always usually skewed towards the people at the very, very top. So the average around about 180 monthly, I would say the median is a lot less than that, which means that more than 50% are probably earning less than $100 a month.
$1 million. Now, those obviously are the 0.01 percenters, right? They say the top earners on OnlyFools make $100,000 or more monthly. OnlyFools dedicates a $20 fee from every subscription and the remaining 80% to the content creator. So if somebody's making 5.4 million, $1 million. So you can see why only hard for young women. It's a side because they make a lot of money from the. But here's the thing. In another survey found that the average there's $30 in 30 days in a month. That's a day. She's putting her starfish and she's putting her ham sandwich out on the internet for $6 a day.
Okay.
These statistics are based on a sample of creators and may not represent all creators on the
Good
platform,
spot,
obviously.
Joker.
1 million users with up to 500,000 users joining daily. The platform has 1.5 to 2 million content creators. So there's 2 million starfishes and ham sandwiches, or at least the majority of them. Yes, there's men on there, and yes, there's artists, I'm sure, but that's not what it's primarily used for. They say, here's what's interesting. The most popular OnlyFools creators take the majority of the platform's earnings. According to a 2020 article by Thomas Hollins, the top 1% of OnlyFools accounts make 33% of all income, while the
top 1% make 33% of all income. Wow. 67% take basically screw all. The top 10% earn 73% income. So 90%, 99% take 67%. 90% only take 27% of the income. 90% take sweet FA. Okay, that fits with what we know.
top
already.
10% earns 73%. So 10% of the women and 90 a lot of money to spread around. Fine. Next have high gender, 5% of the money.
That's the
That
bit I
means
want to see.
90% of the people, the content creators, are getting paid 25% of the money. That's not a whole lot of money to spread around by gender. Men, 87%. Women, 10%, and 3% haven't denoted. Americans, 50%. And then UK is next, 7%, Canada 5%, Germany 3%, Austria 3%. So
in essence, OnlyFans is used by Americans. Elsewhere, it's a very medium, a very small thing. So TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all of this stuff, everything that we hear about OnlyFools is essentially America. Thank fucking God for that. But we know it's coming our way.
So, but obviously, United States is also the most populous country. We've got as many people as, like all of Europe combined. They say 4% of American adults are planning to become an OnlyFools content creator. That I was like, are you kidding me? 4% of American adults, which is obviously women. So if you say women are 50% of the population, that's the equivalent of 8% of all Americans. But it's 4% of all Americans, which is probably 4% women. 4% of women out there, guys. 4% of women out there want to become OnlyFools content creator. Most surprisingly, almost 90% of the OnlyFools users in the survey are married. 90% of the users in the survey were married. The users are almost 90% men, 10% women, 3% other. It's 87.
That's fascinating. That suggests... Here we go. So we've got 170 million global users. 87% are men. So of that 170 million, 17 million is 10%. So take 20 million off. 150 million users on OnlyFans are men. Let's round it. 150 million are men. Half of the users are in the US. So from the 150 million, take 50% of that, 75 million. 75 million men in the US are married and using OnlyFans. Well, what's the population of America? The population of America is what? Let's say 350 million. Let's say 350 million. And we've got 75 million are married and using OnlyFans. So 175, let's just say 50% of Americans are men. 175 million are men. We only have a 50% marriage rate. So out of 175, that's 87.5. 87.5 million men in America are married. 75 million of them are using OnlyFans. I don't believe these numbers. It cannot be true. It cannot be true. There's no way this is true. This is just bull. You cannot have 87 million men in the US are married and 75 million of them use OnlyFans, because the implication is they are using OnlyFans to give money away to random women who are showing off their booty, their coochie. 75 out of 87 million men, married men, 75 million married men out of 87 million married men in the United States are that bored or pissed off or angry or unhappy with their relationships in marriage that they are using OnlyFans, and they're throwing money at these OnlyFans. This, I think people are making, I think people have made their statistics up. I think people have just put in some shit into this and they've used it as if it's true. Because I'm finding that very disconcerting. 75 out of 87.5 million US married men. That's 80%. Is it 80%? It's nearer 90%, actually. Nearly 90% of married United States men are users of OnlyFans, which means they give money to random women on the internet in order to get whatever titillation it gives them. But they're married. I'm thinking there's some bullshit in here. I really am. Let's carry on.
7% men, 10% women, 3% other, unknown, right? So 90% of the users are men, and 90% of the users are married. It is men that are looking at the OnlyFools content. It is men, but it's not the single guys that are looking for the girlfriend experience. It's not the single guy.
I might have missed out 10% somewhere. Let's take it down from 90% of married men. Let's take it down to 80%, because you've got to take off the numbers of men who are the creators, the numbers of women who are the users, the numbers of LGBT who do not identify as male as the users, or who may not be heterosexual, which on this page suggests that the OnlyFans user is likely white, male, married, and heterosexual. The average male OnlyFans user is white, married, and heterosexual. So I missed out the women users. So I'm going to take it down a little bit, but we've still got 87.5 million married men. Let's take it down to 70 million of this lot that are married. Hang on. There's 170 million users. That's globally. That's globally, right. 50% of it is in the US, 85 million. 90% of those are men. So we're talking 76.5 million. Let's round it down. 75 million of the US users of OnlyFans are men. 75 million. 90% of them are married. That gives us, let's say, 68 million, because I've already rounded it down from the higher number. 68 million of 87 million married men in America. 68 million of 87. That's what? 87, 9, 18. That's 80%. 80% of married men in America are using OnlyFans. 80% of married men in America are so pissed off with their marriages that they are using OnlyFans. Do you believe these stats? Does anybody believe these stats? I'm not convinced. I believe that these stats are what was given to OnlyFans, which is what Joker is using here. But if you understand stats, you've got to work out what does this actually mean and then put it into a social context, into a reality. And it doesn't make any fucking sense. 80% of US married men use OnlyFans. Oh, well, I mean, it might be true. It may well be true. But this includes all of the older, so-called very happily married men. Oh, we know that's less than 5%. So it might well be true. Men like porn. Men will keep it quiet. But this includes all of the newlyweds, the people who are brand new to this, but maybe they're all fucking polygamous or something, and so it's perfectly all right. Marriage is dead.
Guys that are lonely. It's not the single guys that can't connect with a woman.
So it's not your incels. It's not your incels that are using OnlyFans. Your incels are not interested in straight sex. They're not interested in titillation. And generally, the incels probably don't have much money to be able to spend on it. Therefore, they will use the free services, X-Hamster or fucking Dribble or Pornhub or whatever. I don't fucking know. I don't know. So your incels, your single men are not using Pornhub. That's really fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Because it is counter to everything that has been said previously. Your incels, your singles, your non-married men are not the ones using Pornhub. Okay, I'm going to stop that one there. Let's see what else we've got here. This is actually a really interesting one. This comes from Matt Walsh. And this is about a man watching as a woman is attacked on campus. And to tell you the truth, I can't disagree with Matt Walsh's conclusion. Again, I'm going to put it up to 1.25 speed.
All right, here's a report about a female college student who was nearly robbed on camera, on security camera on campus, was nearly robbed, but managed to fight back. I want you to watch this video and pay special attention to what's happening, or what's not happening, I suppose, in the foreground of this video. Here it is.
It was just before 3 in the 5600 block of South University. Maddie says a confrontation happened and the suspect demanded her phone before flashing the gun. The pair got into a tussle.
I was grabbing for maybe my phone, maybe the gun. It's really like a blackout moment for me. And I realized that I was able to grab the magazine out of the gun.
The loaded magazine, now in police custody, Maddie says, and she hopes it will help solve the crime. Just minutes after that ordeal sent people in the area scrambling to safety. Another armed robbery involving 2 suspects with handguns reported in the 1300 block of East 56th Street. That crime under investigation by the Chicago Police Department.
I want to feel safer on this campus. That's the bottom line.
I think we can always ask for more from our campus and our city.
Maddie says she hopes fellow students in...
So you can see the guy that sat there on the lawn right in front. I mean, it's clearly a nice day. It's been wet. I mean, he's sat on the grass and it's been very wet. I mean, his arse is going to be absolutely fucking drenched. And it's green grass. I would hesitate to claim this could be green screen. Which is interesting. But I mean, this guy is there. So in the background, the lady is getting attacked by this bloke who has a gun, apparently. And there's this guy that's just sat on the grass, staring straight at them, directly at them. And she's fighting him. And he doesn't do anything. The guy sat down, does not do anything, doesn't say anything, just watches.
Staff are vigilant and keep their guard up. When all said and done, she says her reaction was a knee-jerk one, and she's thankful to be okay.
I couldn't necessarily really register the threat ahead of me, so definitely wouldn't advocate for fighting back. Losing a life over a phone is definitely not worth it.
She runs
So
out.
she removed the magazine from the gun, and I will say, which I mean, obviously all credit goes to her for fighting back successfully. I will say a word of warning to anyone in the future: if you're in the situation and you manage to remove the magazine from your attacker's gun, one thing you should realize is that he might still have a bullet in the chamber, so you're not necessarily home free.
Exactly.
So just something to keep in mind. But the thing that many people have zeroed in on, the detail that stands out the most in that video, is the other guy, the guy who was not involved and remained not involved, and who was sitting in the grass and watching this unfold.
And this is the really interesting bit. And the question is, should he have got involved? It'd be interesting to get any comments in the chat or down below in the comments. I'm gonna let this go. I will let you think about it and put your own comments in. But Matt Walsh goes through some of the aspects within here that indicate that it's not, society is not like it used to be. Pardon me. It's somewhat different. There's things going on in society that suggest it's not really a very good idea for men to get involved.
So if you're listening on the audio podcast, you didn't, of course, see that, but that's what you see in the video. There's some other guy who's probably, I don't know, 15 feet away watching this. We don't know who that guy is, but he sat there and he watched while this woman struggled with her attacker, and he did not appear to lift a finger to help. Now, many people have condemned this guy. They've called him a coward, selfish, weak, so on and so forth.
Which is very, very typical of the people that enjoy the old traditional values and the old patriarchy. The concept that men's lives can be thrown away. Men's lives are disposable. Men's lives are there in order to protect and provide security for anyone that's allegedly vulnerable. Equality changed all that. Children, yes. Adults, no. Equality has changed it all. There is no reason for a man to get involved in anybody else's scuffle, in anybody else's problems, because equality. Because Matt Walsh is going to get into some of the other bits, but I don't think he goes into the equality angle. All of the rights that feminists and women have demanded over the whole of my life, and even further down 60, 90, 150 years, whatever it bloody is. They've demanded it. They've got it. It's written in law. There is no longer a requirement for men to save women. If you want to go out into any public space, you must be able to protect yourself. You must be able to. Because you're equal to men. And you keep telling us that. You're equal to men. Absolutely equal in every way. Every fucking way.
They say that he had a duty to intervene, to protect the innocent, to be a man. etc. And listen, if that were me, of course, it's easy to say, not being in the situation, but if that were me, I would step in because I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I watched that happen, especially if it played out differently and the woman was killed, God forbid, in the struggle. I wouldn't be able to live with myself having witnessed that and not at least attempted to do anything about it. So I think that I would intervene, but can we blame this guy for not doing anything? The answer is that we can't blame him, really. We have lost the right as a society to expect men to step up in those situations. In fact, I think that I would intervene, again, acknowledging that you can't really say for sure what you would do unless you're in that situation. But I'm not even sure that I could say that that's morally the right thing in the current climate. Especially if you have a family and kids of your own who need you.
This is very interesting points. These are not points that I had actually thought about. The moral aspect. If you've got kids, he talks about kids and a family of your own. I mean, that's one bit, but you've got a future. You have a future of your own. A woman will gladly allow a man to die on her behalf. Gladly. Counterpoint, switch that round. Why should a man die on someone else's behalf?
Because why is that? Well, there are several reasons, but starting with the most obvious, men who intervene are frequently arrested and sent to prison. Daniel Penny is facing years in prison right now for doing exactly what the Twitter mob wants this other guy to have done. Look, I mean, it's one thing to ask a man to risk his life. And
this is another interesting point by Matt Walsh. There is a dichotomy online. It does not matter what you do. It makes no fucking difference whatsoever what you do. You will be wrong. You will be castigated. There will be a mob comes after you and gives you shit because you did not do what they wanted to do. And they will share your shit on their shit in order to make sure that you understand that there is a huge amount of people out there that think you did wrong. And then if you did the other thing, there will be a different opposite fucking cabal of people telling you that you did wrong. Now, the issue is whether the legality stuff comes into it. And this is what Matt Walsh is talking about. The guy had a gun. The gun probably had a bullet chambered. The guy wasn't wanting to use it against the woman, but if a bloke had jumped in, he may well have pulled that trigger. Separately, the bloke jumps in, does something to this guy. This guy sues him. And he ends up in prison for however long. Matt Walsh talks about for life. But I mean, you've got to kill somebody for life. I mean, I don't know that this guy could actually do it, but if you're carrying, maybe someone who is carrying would get their weapon out and threaten him and maybe use it. And then they end up in prison for life, for murder or manslaughter or whatever it is, or for at least a long time. So there's a lot of stuff going on here that will impact men who get involved. You will notice women, when they're on their own, will not get involved. Women, when they're on their own, will not get involved. Women, when they're in a group, will quite happily jump on a policeman when it's something to do with an ideological aspect that they're getting involved with. Most of the time, women will just shriek and shout unless they know who is involved. And then they'll go around and swing a handbag or something. Jump on somebody's back, screaming in their ear. But Matt Walsh makes some very, very good points here.
You know, to protect the innocent. It's one thing to ask that. And I think that in an ideal situation, we should ask men to do that. But it's another thing to tell him that he must risk his life. And if he survives, he'll go to jail.
In an ideal situation, he said. We're not in an ideal situation. We're in a totally different genre from when Matt Walsh was born, which was probably 10 years after I was born, if not more. And the world has changed. The world has changed since the mid-1960s, since the mid-1970s. If you were born in the mid-1980s, it's not clear that you will ever have been brought up with these values and principles, but you would have been brought up and you will have had this societal expectation foisted on you. You do this because you're a man. No, that's traditionalism. Traditionalism and patriarchy. And because feminism has got rid of both traditionalism and patriarchy, society can fuck off with all of this shit. You make your own decision. And if your decision is, I don't know that motherfucker that's about to get blasted in the head with a bullet, and I don't give a shit whether it is a bloke or a woman, I'm not getting involved, I got no problem. It's not your issue. You're not involved in it. It's not your fault that you weren't the chosen one. Or maybe it is. Maybe you go to the gym and you have a good body and you look like you can handle yourself, and the bloke who is being the criminal is only interested in going after somebody that they perceive is vulnerable. And most of these people who do this perceive that women are vulnerable. And that's where men traditionally have come in. Vulnerable people, women and children, get protected by men, even men that they have never ever seen before in their lives. And you fucked it all up, completely fucked it all up. It will no longer be like that. It is no longer like that. Because you turn around and say men are toxic, men are shit. Little boys at primary school have to apologize for having been born male. They no longer have a male role model in their families, in their upbringing, that allows them to know what it's like to be a man. So the only thing that they learn is how to be a woman who is pretending to be a man, which is the very definition of toxic. A toxic abortion of masculinity. When a woman tries to tell you what it's like to be a man, you don't learn it from women. You can never learn it from women. This is why in America, 85% of prisoners in America are men from single mother households. Because they're emotional, they're weak, they don't know how to act when they are confronted, when they receive constructive criticism, when they get told they're doing something wrong. Their action is to get emotionally upset about it. And when they're emotionally upset, they cannot control themselves. They have zero stoicism. They have zero control. They have zero ability to control those emotions because they've not been taught to, because they've not had a man in their life. Right, I think we're done with the Matt Walsh one. That's another one. It's very clear. It's a very, very good video. I suggest anybody goes and watches it. The title is on the bottom of the screen as it was. Right, I've not seen this. So I have no idea what exactly is going to come up here. This is about a court of appeal destroys teacher candidates who argued math is racist, which is one of the strangest things I've ever heard.
Hey there. Today I want to give you an update on a case where Ontario teacher candidates had argued that they should not have to pass a mandatory math test in order to get qualified because they said the math test was racial discrimination. Now,
surprise, surprise, it's fucking Canada. Now, I'm from the UK, and I think the UK is fucking nuts when it comes to its institutions and its political parties, and it's all woke bullshit bollocks with no principles, no values. It's like whichever way the wind is blowing, they'll go with it. Other than the Reclaim Party, of course, they're the only ones that actually list out their priorities, which right at the top of them is about freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of belief, freedom of expression. They are the only party that does that. And Canada is one of the most Marxist, communist, far leftist jurisdictions that I have ever known. Let's see where this goes.
Now, I described this case in an earlier video. It was a case that we at the Canadian Constitution Foundation intervened in at the Court of Appeal. Well, the decision is now out. The math test is not discriminatory, and I can't wait to tell you all about it.
Ding, 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 ding. Maths is not discriminatory. Now, I say maths. Americans and Canadians, they say math. I mean, there's something weird about listening to people from new worlds try to speak my language. It's really strange, but I'll deal with it.
If you're new here, welcome.
I think the Canadian Constitution Foundation were the people that worked alongside Jordan Peterson, if I remember right. I could be completely wrong about that. They were defending him, or they were advising him, whatever it is. So this could be quite interesting, but it might take a little while to get into it. Thankfully, this is only 14 minutes long, and I put it onto 1.25. And if I get bored of it, I'm just going to get rid of it.
My name is Christine, and I'm the litigation director for the Canadian Constitution Foundation, a legal charity that fights for fundamental freedom law in Canada.
Boring.
So that sounds like something you'd be interested in. Please, is legal
Boring.
advice. If you have about this case, which is called Petrucci and Ontario, but I call it the math is racist case. Now, I'll put a link in the description below to some of those other videos and a link to the case itself to the case. So the Ontario government had created this new requirement that teacher candidates needed to pass what they called a math proficiency test. And this was created because the government and parents were pretty concerned about low and dropping math scores among Ontario students. And
So teachers needed to pass a math proficiency course, and some people are claiming it's racist because they're unable to pass the math proficiency course, and they come from certain races who never got an education because they chose to piss about in class, or they had a home education, dare I say it, that was irrelevant and did not teach math at all. So they want to teach math. I'm saying math because this is what she says, Canada and America. It's like fucking Americans and Canadians, and I was speaking your way that you fucking wanted to be spoken. But it's mathematics with an S on the end of it. Maths. There you go. There's my English lesson to you fucking Yankee and North American fuckheads. But just winding you up. But in essence, there's a bunch of people who cannot pass a maths proficiency test in order to teach maths, who want to teach maths to people in Canada. I have never actually heard of anything so fucking stupid in my life. If there is anything, there are two things that you want a government to do absolutely fucking brilliantly. Two things. One, employ the best fucking people possible to teach your children what needs to be taught to them. Now, when I talk about education, I'm talking about you teach people how to think, and you teach them the sciences and the maths and the physics, the reality of the situation. You do not teach them what to think, which is all about fucking ideology. But if you've got people who haven't got a fucking clue what maths actually is, how are they supposed to teach students maths? It makes no sense whatsoever. It is impossible to say that it is racist to claim that these tests are racist. I'm not sure I made much sense in that. I can't even remember what I said. I probably had too much wine. But the idea that these tests are racist because they discriminate against people of certain races or colors or ethnicities or nationalities or whatever it is you want to say. Maths is a universal language. And you need to fucking understand it if you're going to teach children. So education is one of the two things that a government really, really, really needs to be involved in. The other one is healthcare. Why do I say that? Because I'm from the UK. I find healthcare really important. But for you Americans, you don't give a shit about healthcare because you want everybody to bankrupt themselves either by paying health insurance or by having a car accident when they don't have health insurance. Now, I find that a bit fucking stupid myself. But hey, here we go. Let's carry on.
Due to a math teacher shortage, elementary teachers can end up teaching math even if they had never intended to be a math teacher. So the government decided to create this math proficiency test to ensure that all teachers had this baseline level of math skill. And the test included questions that had actually been pulled from existing tests for students in grades 3, 6, and 9, as well.
So the teachers need to have a baseline level of understanding, and the tests were actually pulled from the tests that the students will take in certain years in order to see whether the teachers understand the concepts. And they claimed it was racist because these motherfuckers did not understand maths, but they wanted to teach it. Go fuck yourselves.
Well as the test also included a series of questions on math pedagogy, which is how to teach math. Now, I think we all probably share a similar view that requiring teachers to answer some basic math questions, the same questions that are given to their own students, along with requiring them to answer a few additional questions about how to teach math, well, that seems probably pretty reasonable to most of us. But a group of teacher candidates challenged the test, arguing that because some early results of the test showed that teacher candidates from certain racial groups were failing the test at higher rates than white candidates, the test was a form of unjustified racial discrimination.
So it's racial discrimination because a bunch of people didn't get a good education. Why didn't they get a good education? They get the same level of education across the US. I believe there's a hell of a lot more money goes into certain minority areas to make sure that those children receive a very good education. Maybe they pissed about in class. Maybe they just failed math. Maybe they're not very good at maths. Now they want a fucking job at it. Or maybe they received home education. They were homeschooled. And their parents weren't very good at maths, and their parents were unable to teach them maths. Their parents didn't have any understanding of the pedagogy. Fucking brilliant word. I'm glad that she described it. The method of teaching. I'd never heard it before. I mean, I've heard the word before. I'd never heard the definition before. Never had to use it before. Fantastic. Fascinating. That's because I'm a nerd. But as I said before, these people wanted to be able to teach your children maths, and they didn't fucking understand maths. That's not the way it should be for teaching. You need the best people to teach.
So they brought a legal challenge on the basis of the charter guarantee in Section 15 to be free from unjustified discrimination. And shockingly, a lower court in Ontario accepted the teacher candidate's argument. And the lower court decision, I have to say, it was based on really flimsy data. It was based on preliminary test results from July of 2021. And at that point, there were 3,600 candidates who took the test and around 2,800 who actually filled out this demographic questionnaire. And based
July of 2021, wasn't that in the middle of the COVID era? At my age, fucking 3 years ago, might as well have been 3 decades ago. And everything gets all mixed up all over the fucking place. And I don't know what happened when and the context of what came just before and what came just after. I can't fucking remember, but it sounds a bit like COVID times. So a load of people get laid off from their whatever jobs. They're getting a load of money, or maybe they don't in Canada and America. I don't know. I don't know how much people got paid for their COVID stipend or whatever it was called, their checks that they got. But they wanted another job, so they thought, oh, teaching maths will be really easy, especially if it's online. I just have to sit there, sit back, put my hands up. It's like, it's going to be piss easy teaching these people maths. And they couldn't do it.
Based on that questionnaire and the test results, the teacher candidates argued that there was a significant disparity in the relative success for test takers in different race categories. So, for example, the 2021 data showed that 70% of Black candidates and 71% of Indigenous candidates passed the test, compared to 92% of Asian candidates and 91% of white candidates.
So, of these people that failed the tests, why did they bother thinking? Why the fuck did they think that they had the skills, the math skills, never mind the pedagogy skills, pedagogy, I don't know, the pedagogy skills of being able to teach, never mind that, but they didn't understand maths. Why did they think they had enough knowledge of maths to be able to teach it? They had this expectation that they could just go into this. It was like, it comes back to this old adage. People who can do, people who can't teach. And you will end up with teachers who don't fucking know anything.
Now, for that July data, it means that there were 474 candidates who failed the first time they took the test. And about half of those 474 retook the test. And of those retakes, 85% passed. But among the retakes, very, very few of them gave demographic data. So the lower court was left with this very, very tiny pool of data. 259 candidates who had failed the first test and hadn't yet rewritten the test, because you had unlimited rewrites. And they hadn't rewritten by the end of July. But part of the lower court's reasoning in finding the test was discriminatory was they found that just having to retake the test at all was a burden that fell disproportionately on some racial groups.
This is getting really fucking boring. Because these people had failed it in higher numbers, because they'd fucked about at school, or they'd done whatever, or they'd not been taught the right stuff, or they hadn't done some revision extra to get back into it, or they were just deluded enough to think that they could just go in there and teach maths when they didn't have a fucking clue. Just like with doing your exams, if you fail, you have to retest. And so they're now saying, because these people failed, they needed to retest, and because that retest hit a certain set of groups harder, fucking work harder. Work harder. Become better. Merit, not fucking traits. Fuck your traits. If you're not good enough, you don't get in. Work harder, get better, be good enough, and get in. Pass first time. Man, fucking pisses me off. What else have we got here? No. BroJo's on. BroJo started a little while back. Right, I'm going to get out of here. I've been going 55 minutes and that'll fucking do. So I'm going to say
goodbye.
Goodbye. And I'm going to run away. Goodbye.